Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel for another video. I am doing a continuation of a previous video that I filmed earlier today. So if you haven't seen that video, check it out. I basically talk about if you should take a leave of absence this upcoming fall semester, or if you should continue along and keep doing online classes or a hybrid model. I had planned for that video to also be my advice and my experience with taking a leave of absence during my undergraduate schooling. However, the video ended up being already super long with me trying to weigh the options of attending fall 2020 semester or not. So I decided to split it into two videos. So in this video, I'm going to be, again, explaining what I did and how long my leave of absence was. And then I'm going to give you suggestions of ideas of what I think you can do if you are planning on taking a leave of absence for the upcoming semester or the upcoming year. However, before I fully get into the video, of course I have to remind you, if you're new to my channel, if you're not already, make sure you subscribe and tap that notification bell so you can get a notification the next time that I upload a video. If you aren't already, make sure that you're following me on my socials on Twitter and Instagram, which both have the same username. And finally, if I'm uploading this video this week, which I'm hoping to do, then you still have some time to sign up for my newsletter on my website. So if you don't know what a newsletter is, it's basically an email that gets sent to your inbox every month. And for my newsletter, I'm planning on basically updating you on all of the content that I've been creating throughout the past month, life updates, just like personal updates that I want to connect to my audience with more, ideas that I have for future content, as well as articles that I've been reading. So with that being said, if you're interested in getting my newsletter and staying connected with me and ensuring that you've caught up with all of my content, then make sure to sign up for my newsletter because I'm sending out my first newsletter on Friday at the end of this week. So you still have time, if this is going up the way that I plan, to sign up for my newsletter. First and foremost, if you don't know what a leave of absence is, it's basically an interruption to your undergraduate schooling. So this means that you've already been enrolled. Also, I realized that this video would also be pretty applicable if you're planning on doing a gap year. And here's what I would explain the difference is. So a gap year would be like if you just graduated high school and you've never enrolled in college and you haven't taken any college classes. And before you start college, you take an entire year off and delay your, freshman status. Whereas a leave of absence would be if you've already enrolled in college, you've already been taking classes, and you leave during the semester or during the year and take time off for like a semester, a year, 2 years, depending on how long you make it. So from my understanding, I'm pretty sure every college lets you do a leave of absence, but again, I'm not too sure, so don't quote me on that. And obviously, it might look different for every college. But basically, at my college, you have to fill out some paperwork, and you can take a leave of absence in the middle of the semester or before the semester starts. And it can be different reasons as to why you take a leave of absence. So it could be a medical reason, a mental health reason, like a family reason, emergency. I'm not sure, the list could go on and on. Okay, so let's go back to 2016, and I had just been accepted into Scripps and I was starting my I was a transfer student, but I was in my second semester of my freshman year. And I had already been enrolled in classes. I would say that I got 3/4 of the way through fall semester, and I was having severe depression. So I also need to contextualize the year before that. I had gotten extremely sick and I had experienced a psychotic episode, which I'd never experienced in my life. And if you want, I have a video on my channel that basically explains like my psychotic episode, I guess. So if you want more details about that, then go watch that video. But to sum it all up, I had an entire semester where I went psychotic and I got diagnosed with bipolar 1 disorder. And then after that, I went to community college and I applied for transfer, and then I got into Scripps. So when I was going to Scripps for the first semester, I was still figuring out how to manage my life with a bipolar diagnosis, and I was still struggling with my sobriety at the time. So I was trying to be sober and trying to maintain sobriety. However, I relapsed during that fall semester. So trigger warning, I'm going to talk about some mental health stuff right now related to suicide. I'm not going to get into detail, but I'm just going to mention that. I'm going to mention in detail, but also going to mention self-harm. So just wanted to give you that warning. So I was having suicidal tendencies and suicidal thoughts, and I was self-harming. And I was just not doing well. I was extremely depressed, and I was struggling really, really hard. And I got extremely overwhelmed and just decided to take a leave of absence. So I took a leave of absence, and my memory's kind of foggy. I can't remember. I don't think that I enrolled in a program or anything. I just thought, like, I need a break from school and I will start up again fresh in the spring. So my break from school wasn't that long because I took my leave of absence in November, and then I started school again in January. And so I started the spring semester thinking that I was going to continue and go on and like finish the semester. But it was before the withdraw deadline. I can remember actually during the fall, I did end up in a mental health hospital, in a behavioral hospital. So yeah, that was around November, and I was in the hospital, and then I took a leave of absence. And then in the spring, I thought that I could start up again, and I thought I'd be okay. And then I ended up in the hospital again. And thankfully, I withdrew before the deadline, so none of that ended up on my record at all. So it's almost as if that semester doesn't exist on my transcript. Okay, all of that is to say, for my leave of absence, so I left like in January or February, so I had a really long time. I had the rest of this semester to focus on my leave of absence, so I had a lot of time. And I dedicated my main focus of my leave of absence to improve my mental health, regain stability, and how to live my life post-psychosis trauma and with a bipolar depression diagnosis. That was my main goal for my leave of absence. I'm now going to detail everything that I did and what I gained from that time during my leave of absence. So during my leave of absence, I focused on making sure that I had the right diagnosis. For sure, bipolar/depression. I also attended group sessions to learn about addiction and sobriety, so I learned a lot of tools about sobriety. I also started attending anonymous meetings, and I also started attending addiction recovery groups, which was really great for me, and I learned a lot. I also did dialectical behavioral therapy, which is more of a group therapy, but it can be done one-on-one. But I did that extensively for like a month and a half, and I got so much out of that and learned a lot of healthy coping skills and healthy like mental framing for managing my anxiety and my depression. I also ended up getting my dog Shiloh during this time. So I actually got Shiloh during my fall semester, but I had already taken my leave of absence, and over the course of the second semester I had a leave of absence, I was training my dog. So yeah, and I actually got her and got to live with her for the first time the summer preceding my leave of absence. I also got to live on my own. During the fall semester, I was attempting to live on campus and it wasn't working out for me and my mental health. And then in the spring, I moved off campus. And while I was on my leave of absence, I learned how to live by myself and with my dog alone, and how to like take care of a home and my space, and how to like fill up my days and get all my responsibilities done. Now, this I think was a major takeaway from my leave of absence that I didn't realize, but this was before I declared my major, and I actually spent time researching different majors, and I bought books about sociology, and I read them and studied them, and I talked to people that I knew that were studying sociology as well. And I explored the course catalog for sociology at my college, and I ultimately decided to major in sociology during my leave of absence. I also practiced art and got in touch with my creative side, so I did a poetry group, I did a little bit of sculpture, I started doing digital art. Again, I started drawing and doing like mixed media. And through being in therapy, I ultimately confronted that I had a huge anxiety, fear of getting grades, and I had a huge perfectionist mentality. And during my first semester of scripts, it was kind of like, if I can open up a little bit about my trauma. In high school, I was undiagnosed with depression and bipolar disorder. So I was a very absent and poor student, but I was still in like the advanced placement classes and the honors classes, and I would perform well on tests, but I would do really badly in the class. And I just kind of developed this complex that I was not intelligent, but also kind of confused because like I was hanging out with all of the AP kids and doing well in speech and debate, but my GPA was extremely low. I couldn't even apply to the UC schools because I didn't have the minimum GPA. It was just like so bad. And so I didn't end up in a college at the tier that I think that I belonged in. And so when I finally got to Scripps, which was, you know, this elite, like very competitive, challenging university, I kind of felt this immense pressure of like, wow, I'm finally at the university that I deserve to be at. So the grades that I'm going to get are gonna say like so much about me now. I just had all of this anxiety and pressure and perfectionism in my brain that was holding me back from just getting a grade and performing at school. Ultimately, I accomplished a lot over my leave of absence, and when I finally returned during fall 2017, I thrived, and I've been thriving ever since. So now that leads me in to explaining that I am in full support of anyone taking a leave of absence who can swing it, basically. If it's, if you're in the right situation where it's not going to affect you negatively, like financially or emotionally or otherwise, then I say to everybody, and a gap year, even though I never took a gap year, I'm in full support of a gap year and a leave of absence. Now I want to tell you some ideas in addition to all of the things that I've mentioned, but I'll repeat them again. Here are some ideas. If you are going to be taking a leave of absence for fall 2020 or for the 2020 to 2021 academic year, here are some ideas on what you can do and how you can spend your time on your leave of absence. So I repeat, if you want to do what I did, then, go to therapy, see a psychiatrist, get a diagnosis. If this is something that you're struggling with, while you're already in college or while you were in high school, just focus entirely on your mental healing, your mental health, your mental wellness. And in addition, if you're somebody who struggles with addiction, which by the way, there are plenty of college students that suffer from addiction without realizing it, then you can take this time to get sober. Go to meetings, do the 12-step program, listen to podcasts, detox, rehab, whatever you need to get sober. Learn how to manage your sobriety outside of a program. Just do it all. Focus entirely on your mental health. It is totally worth it, and I can tell you as somebody who's on the other side of doing it, I do not regret it. In fact, I don't think I could have survived without taking that time. My second biggest recommendation is start a project, a personal project. Start a YouTube channel, start a blog, start streaming, gaming, or whatever. Start a podcast, start a website, start a Patreon, start filming a movie or documentary that you've always wanted to do. Start an internet project that you are passionate about and you've been putting off for way too long. Basically, focus on a passion project that if you were in college would be, too much work for you to balance or to get off the ground. Because getting it off the ground is probably the hardest part and getting into consistent groove. So if you spend a lot of time getting over that first hump and, getting into a routine, then maybe it can become more manageable when you go back to school. Now, this is if you can swing it and if you have the financial ability to do so. Move somewhere you're unfamiliar with. Of course, this is only if it follows COVID restrictions and stuff like that. Or if you can't move, spend time exploring somewhere unfamiliar to you that's close by. I live in Southern California and I spent a lot of time in Los Angeles that I otherwise wouldn't have. And like I said earlier, research and decide what you want to major in if you haven't done this already. So if you're a sophomore or a freshman or an incoming freshman doing a gap year, check out some books on potential majors, talk to people, explore the course catalog, research YouTube videos about your major, do it all. Now, these are the most obvious that people are going to tell you, which is, get an internship, get a job, volunteer to save money and gather an experience. You can also do what I did, which is get an animal because it takes time to train them and get accustomed to them and build a routine. But this is, of course, if your college is pet friendly and you plan on taking your pet with you to college. My college is very pet friendly, so that made sense. Another big one is to get into a workout routine or a new eating routine and learn how to cook. This is huge if you are a junior or a senior and you're planning on going to graduate school. Spend some time researching graduate schools, talking to friends, reaching out to professors, researching programs, schools, getting prepared for the GRE if that's something you have to do, or the LSAT, or whatever. Learn a language or learn a new instrument. You can definitely spend much time doing those things. You can also take Skillshare classes or classes online that are way less expensive or kind of have to do with technical things. So they're just like not as expensive, or something that you wouldn't be able to take classes at college in. This is something that apparently everybody loves to do and wants to do. Learn how to code, or learn how to do graphic design, or like building a website, because that's a super helpful skill that you can have in this day and age. This is a little unknown, I guess I would say, but spend time with your family or an elderly family member that you've been putting off and would maybe later regret not having spent time with. You could even help a family member, like with parenting or schooling, or you could even become a caretaker for an elderly parent or person in your family. This is something that would be really helpful if you're already in college, but begin the application process for transferring. If you're at a community college, or if you're at a university that you don't enjoy and you see yourself somewhere else, now would be a good time to start putting in the work for essays and gathering all your stuff. There's no shame in just taking time to like do leisure activities, especially if you're a particularly stressed out college student who hasn't given yourself any ability to enjoy your hobbies. Like, just take relaxation time. You can get involved in the local politics of your community, or what I would say is join a socialist organization or an organization that is dedicated to a social cause that you're particularly passionate about. I feel like I can't be the only one with this weird thing I'm about to say next, but maybe tend to a medical issue that you've been putting off because you've been very busy with school. So either getting surgery or a diagnosis or treatment or whatever it may be. So for example, I have to get surgery on my mouth that I've been putting off because I don't have any time because of school. I would also recommend during this time maybe going to online conferences in your specialty or your major to research and find out more information about your field. This is huge if you are a junior or a senior, but it's never too early to begin working on your senior thesis. So create your research question, begin compiling data, start your IRB application, and this might be hard to do without the direction of a professor or an advisor, but you can always get advice from some of your friends that are older than you and that have already graduated, or maybe a tutor or something like that. Ultimately, you can do many of these things in combination with one another. It doesn't have to just be one thing. And you can also figure it out as you go or create a plan, whatever works for you. But most importantly, what I want you to take away from this is you don't have to overwhelm yourself with saying to yourself that you have to come out of this leave of absence with, huge productivity, huge efficiency, a great success story. Even if you just spend this time off focusing on yourself and your mental health and your self-care and just nourishing, the things that you're grateful in your life, that is a successful leave of absence or gap year in and of itself. I mean, for a lot of us, if you're just getting out of high school, then you've spent like the last 13 years in college. If you're a junior, then you've spent the last 16 years. 17 years if you're a senior, just doing straight college, and I mean, not college, but education in general, and you haven't had a break, like, it's okay to just take a break. Like, give yourself the permission to just focus on yourself and nourishing yourself. And that's all I have to say for this video about a leave of absence or a gap year. I hope that this video was helpful for you. And if you come up with other ideas about what you want to spend your leave of absence doing, or what you have spent a leave of absence doing, please leave them down in the comments. And let me know if you got anything out of this video, if it was helpful, or me talking about my experience. And once again, I just want to remind you to make sure you subscribe, follow me on my socials, check out my website, check out my blog, check out my Twitch channel. All of that is linked in the description down below. And I appreciate you for following me, subscribing, watching my videos, reaching out to me. It means the world. I love it so much. I'm extremely grateful. And with all of that being said, I will see you in my next video.